I'll hit start.
All right, welcome everyone. I think we'll wait just maybe 30 seconds. I see a few more folks signing in, so we'll just wait 5 or 6 seconds. Not too long. We don't want the awkwardness of y'all just watching me. Hopefully this has been a good experience for y'all. Since this is being recorded, we'll just go ahead and jump right in. But welcome to the second hour of our third week of the UAA virtual conference. We're so excited to have you all here. And just as a reminder, next week is our final day, and it is on a Wednesday, May 26th. From 12 to 1, we'll have the 4 presentation options, and then from 1 to 2, we will have our final keynote speaker. And so thanks for joining us. So today's presentation is titled Help, This Wasn't Covered in Training, Creating a Space for Post-Training Support for Advisors. And it's my honor to introduce Sylvia Peralta presenting. If you have questions, you can put them in the Q&A live chat, and Sylvia and I will watch out for those, and we'll kind of answer those as we go along. So I'll turn the time over to Sylvia.
Thank you so much, Daniel, and thank you everyone logged in here today. I'm really happy to share something that I came up with a couple of years ago that helped me and other advisors get through the first couple months of training once we got started. So I want to first start out with the following. How many advisors have come across a situation when they were new that they were not technically trained on handling? If you want to share, you're welcome to use the chat box to submit your situation, or if you want to just think about it, go back in time to when you started, when you ran into something that was just like, there's nothing in policy written down. So I'm going to start out with an example. When I was a new advisor, a student came into my office with a registration issue. The specific major that they were registering for was showing as the specific courses that they were registering for, they were showing as occurring at the same time. And there was a time conflict coming up. It was just a mess. And I couldn't figure out what to do. One of the first things that I did was check my resources, right? Went through the training manual, went through the Canvas course that we were assigned. Then I looked up policies, procedures. I could not find anything on this. And then I checked with my nearest advisor. She didn't know what to do and was just as confused as I was. She had been there for about a year. Then I checked with another advisor who was there a little bit longer than we were, and they didn't know either. So here we are, 3 people who just were lost as to like what to do. I checked with my supervisor, and it was a busy season, so it took forever for him to get back to me. And then I checked with the previous advisor who was over this program before. And then finally, that person was able to explain to me that those types of errors require a registration exception that needed to be granted by the Associate Dean's office. So I started thinking, why hasn't this been written down somewhere so that whenever the baton gets passed over, we actually know what to do when these types of situations comes up? I decided to create a document of some sort to track these unique situations that I kept running into. Oh, I just realized I haven't even moved my presentation. So I decided to create some sort of document to track these situations because we kept running into other random, weird situations that just required for these unique processes to be written down somewhere because it wasn't anywhere in policy for whatever reason. It was just, issues that were resolved by doing one thing or talking to one person or another. So I decided to come up with a wiki. And this actually started because I created a bunch of documents that had instructions on how to resolve these unique situations. And at first, I started out with writing down my own experiences. What is a wiki, though, before we go any further? A wiki is a place where team members can contribute and modify one or more pages of related materials. Wikis are collaborative in nature, and they facilitate community building. And they're usually a web page of sorts with an open editing system, and they're not meant to cover what's already covered in training, because you don't want to just, slap everything that you covered in training on yet another spot, right? When I originally created the wiki, I started out with frequently asked questions section. This section included questions and answers that I ran into as an advisor, because I wanted to make sure that other advisors had access to all of that. This included things like old test scores that we were using a couple years ago. How would that translate into the new system? Would it translate? How would it translate if it could translate? Also included things like non-credit course enrollment questions, pretty much everything that as a new advisor I ran into and it was not covered in the original training materials, I included in there. As new team members were added, I sent them the link to the wiki for them to be able to get those questions and answers themselves. And senior advisors also started contributing to this wiki, and it got to be so much that I later decided, okay, let's kind of organize this a little bit better so that we can have a frequently asked questions and a how-to section. And towards the end of the presentation, I'll show you the different tools that you can use to create your own wiki if that's something that you're interested in, and also show you kind of like what mine looks like. Over the years, advisors have used the wiki to get them through odd situations that come up, which is more often than not. So some of the benefits to creating a wiki would be supplementing existing training material. Sometimes processes are not clear, or sometimes it's better to explain a process by doing like a sequential type of step visual for people. So we included things like that in the wiki. We provided answers to unique situations, again, because that seems to be like the most common thing that would come up for us. In those unique situations, we included step-by-step instructions on how to resolve them, who to contact, what offices to contact, if there's a form that has to be filled out and submitted, if someone has to be copied on an email that you might have to send, like that type of information. Another thing when it comes to wiki is that it provides you with immediate answers. You don't have to keep waiting on other advisors to get back to you in your messaging system, or to get a phone call back, or to get an email response on how to resolve something. And so it ends up saving you some time. If it can shave off half an hour of you waiting, or an hour of you waiting for someone to get back to you, it's going to be beneficial. So hopefully by now you're sold on this idea that the wiki is going to help you, going to help your team, is going to help improve the learning curve for newer advisors. So you're probably asking yourself, okay, great, I want to do this. Let's get this going, but how do I get started? So to get started, start by writing down your own experiences. Think of the unique situations that you've been faced with and that you're still probably dealing with, because I mean, I don't know about you guys, but personally, that one situation I gave as an example, that's still happening. And it's now been like, what, 3-4 years at this point, where the same thing happens to happen, whether it be one semester or the other, it just seems to continue to happen. So it's nice that it's now written down officially, and the other advisors who are now over those programs, they've got something to refer to. So start by writing down your own experiences. Write down, how did you resolve it? Who did you contact? What office do you contact? Steps. Ask your colleagues to start contributing, to email you unique situations that they've run into. Have them give them access also to a document that you may have started, a shared document, to start writing these things down. You might be asking yourself, okay, I've got all of that done, right? Now what? Okay, well, there's different places to get this organized on. So every institution is unique in what systems they use. For example, at Salt Lake Community College, we use Canvas. We use Microsoft products we use Google products. We also have an internal drive to organize our documents. So there's so many places where we can place this in, but here are some important features to consider when you're creating your wiki. You want to be able to search. That's the very #1 thing that you want to be able to do. And I'll tell you why in a minute. You want to be able to edit this document, and you want to be able to give folks the ability to contribute. And so some of these things you might want to have limitations on, you might not want to have limitations on, but we'll cover that in a second. The first thing I want to talk about is, why is searchability important? So searchability allows for users to enter keywords really quick, and it allows them to be able to get like a search result when they enter keywords. So if they have a question about financial aid, is a program covered by financial aid? Or if they have a question about old test scores, you can type in the name of the test score, or sorry, the name of the actual test, and it will pull passages or pages that may include that particular word in it. And it makes it so that people are able to kind of filter through a little bit faster instead of going in through a system that doesn't have that search option, which can then make it so that they have to click through like modules or go through pages and things like that. Being able to edit and contribute is also really important, because policies, procedures, tests, something's always changing at the institution. You also have new situations that arise, new errors, new whatever. And so you want to be able to have and provide a space to discuss that information and to talk about what was done to resolve that issue. Now, I mentioned that some teams, some organizations may want to restrict who is allowed to add to the wiki itself. Their reasons may include not wanting to have repeat information, completely understandable. I ran into that, and I found that, yeah, that is something that you want to watch out for. You also don't want someone accidentally deleting something, and that happened to me too. And luckily I was able to kind of revert to like a different version, and it brought everything back, but perhaps that's something that you're concerned about, and so you may want to go with a program that's going to allow you to kind of restrict that type of access. Let's see, the other items, the next point is who's going to be in charge of this wiki? Who's going to take ownership? Is it going to be one singular person? Is it going to be a group of maybe like team leads or something? Is it going to be open to everyone? Who's going to be in charge of it? Start thinking of who are going to be like the owners per se of the wiki. Let's see. Another important point is that the wiki is meant to be a live document. So whenever changes occur, you want to be able to have a person who's going to be there making the changes for you and ensuring that everything is up to date. So those are what I found to be essential for my team. And with that in mind, I checked through different platforms or systems that I could use to store all of the information. Canvas was my first go-to because we already have our training material there. But it didn't work out because it actually lacks a search feature, which is really important when it comes to creating a wiki. It eliminates the time that's being wasted looking through modules, looking through pages in Canvas. So unfortunately, I had to scratch that idea. And then I moved on to using Google Pages, because Google Pages allows for searchability. But unless you give every person in your team ownership of the wiki pages, the ability to edit is not going to really be there. In addition, the team members may find it a little difficult adding to the pages because they're technically editing a web page. But if you do want to limit the ability to edit, you can create a Google form. If you want to be able to still allow people to contribute, create a Google form and embed it onto a page on the Google site. And whenever there's a new change, team members can submit that form. I found it easy to get the Google site set up and the form set up, but if you want something less technical, you could go to Microsoft OneNote. In the OneNote, you create a classroom. And you can add your team members to this classroom, and you can select, and when you're adding them, you can select if you want them to have edit access. OneNote allows you to just click into the page and start adding content. It's kind of like where you're going into like a notebook and you're just pulling a page and you're writing notes or something. It also allows you to be able to like copy and paste things really easily, do screenshots of images, and you can put that into the page that you're editing. And again, you can restrict who can do that. If you want to include like links maybe to like a SharePoint site or something, or a SharePoint document, you definitely could. It allows you to do that. And so that brings me to the next one. I did check on SharePoint to see if I could create a wiki there. The problem with SharePoint is that while it is a really good tool to get documents organized, that's exactly what it is. It's just to organize documents. It just didn't visually work for me. I like the ease of looking at Microsoft OneNote because it looked like a notebook with like different tabs. I could quickly just click on a tab and it'll just jump into that. And I was able to just go in and out just fine. SharePoint would work fine if all you want is just for them to be able to access documents. But if you want to be able to share those visuals really quickly and have it look like a notebook per se, OneNote might work better for you. And granted, I haven't reviewed all of the different systems or platforms that you can use to create your wiki. I'm just letting you guys know the things that I looked into, and what worked for me, what didn't work for me, and why it didn't work for me. You might have to go and try out different programs to determine what's going to be best for your team. So what I wanted to show you was kind of like what mine looks like. So in mine, we have these different tabs. For example, here is like School of Applied Technology, and then here's a different one, School of Technical Specialties. And there are differences in these different tabs, and they're there for a reason. It's because one program or group of programs, they operate differently than the other ones. So it was important to keep them kind of separate. Right next to it, you see enrollment steps, how-tos, and then you see kind of like indented. Those are sub-pages. And so I was able to kind of split things up so that the titles could stand out a bit more, versus if we had it all in one document, a person would have to click into a document and kind of scroll through to see like where it's at. This one, you just click on it and it usually gives you answers related to questions that are about training plans, for example, or cost estimates. So just to kind of show you how the sub pages worked, the sub pages allowed me to put, like, if you see where it says CASA score guidance sheet, that's a link over to one of our documents in SharePoint. So yeah, that's what I did to create my wiki. Hopefully you all can see some benefits of creating a wiki. And right now, I actually want to give a lot of time for people to ask questions, so that I can kind of like give my opinions and kind of like my experience on things I might not have covered here. Go ahead and start entering your questions in the chat.
Sylvia, well, that's happening. Was that your live demo of your wiki? Was that a live shot?
It was one of them was from yesterday. The other one was from a couple of months ago. But yeah, it still looks relatively the same.
Very cool. Thank you.
As we're waiting for questions, comments, I do want to talk about how this greatly helped my team be able to get through the oddness of having to train a new person through COVID. So we had a person come on board our team 2 weeks prior to everything being shut down, and this poor woman had to go through training virtually, and we had never done that. We were not prepared to do that, per se, at least like with like our Canvas course that we usually have folks go through. Usually, you know, you're in training and you go and you shadow people and you take down, you know, your notes, and you look at the different programs that they might access so that they can get through the advising appointment. And what was really interesting was that since we weren't able to do that, we had to figure something out. So we decided to just be a bit more specific with steps and include screenshots, and even include like demo video walkthrough on how to use certain programs within our institution. This took a couple of months for us to figure it out, but we're now prepared so that if a person does join our team and they happen to be a remote employee, they can easily log into the wiki that includes those videos so that they're able to kind of go through a more like virtual training that is actually effective. Because reading through training material and expecting for someone to know exactly how that can be applied on the job is so difficult. And including someone in, like, let's say a WebEx or Zoom session with a student is not the same because they're not able to see your screen to see exactly what programs you may be using to get through that appointment. So in our wiki, we decided to include that type of information as well, of what screens to open up, what to click on in these screens, include like little like screenshots of this is what it should look like, or if it looks like this, then this is what it means type of thing. So it really helped us with like having a person learn the system. We had someone else come on board around October, and we gave them access to the wiki and the additional training material in the wiki, and they were able to kind of pick up on things a lot faster, given the fact that they're pretty much learning in a virtual environment, which is not the same as them, you know, coming in and sitting down with us. Daniel, do we have any questions or comments or anything like that come up?
I'm not seeing anything yet.
Okay, thank you. And I apologize that my presentation was really short. Usually in a live session, I would have folks here, you know, talking, and I would have them throughout their experiences with situations and how they were able to resolve it. And we would have a deeper conversation on like why those situations are important for us to write down and things like that. So if there are no questions, I am okay to kind of end the session a little bit earlier.
Hey, Sylvia, I have a question.
Yeah.
What if you already have existing training documents and they're kind of all over the place for different areas? Can you upload existing information to these wikis and kind of organize them better? Can you maybe speak to that?
Yeah, you definitely can. The nice thing is that you can upload Word documents if that's how you have it, for example, or you can copy and paste into OneNote really easily. And again, if these documents are linked to other documents and you've got everything at least in one centralized place, like SharePoint, for example, then you can just link that into OneNote as well. That's something that we're going to actually be moving towards at Salt Lake Community College. We're going to start moving, like migrating all of our Canvas training material into OneNote because of its searchability feature. Unfortunately, in Canvas, folks aren't able to just, you know, type in a keyword and search, and that's something that we found is really valuable as people, you know, have these questions. And if we're in the middle of like a really busy season, then it takes them longer to find answers, even if it's like a policy question. So yeah, it's easy to migrate. We're actually working on that right now. And hopefully, crossing my fingers, it proves to help the training time for our new advisors. We have one question. How did you decide what items to prioritize for your wiki? So when I originally started it, I was prioritizing random questions that would come up or situations that would come up that didn't have a solution to it posted in our training material, and where I couldn't find answers to that in our policies and procedures. So that's how I started. I prioritized that because if it's a common question that keeps coming up semester and just every semester, then it needs to be posted somewhere if the answer just isn't anywhere else. After that, we started seeing a couple of more questions pop up, and it was just getting to be too much. So we organized it a lot more, so that it's just easier for us to be able to find the information. It just flowed a lot better instead of it being just one page and it was just like a bunch of information. We split it up so it can just be better organized. The next question, the next comment. We use Confluence. Thank you, Steve. I don't know what it costs though. Another department has shared access with us. It works great though. Thank you, Steve. I tried to keep the different products that we use at a minimum. We already use so many different platforms to communicate or to work off of. So I wanted to use something that we already had access to, and OneNote was one of those things. It was just easy for people to kind of like click into because we already accessed the Microsoft Cloud anyways. But I will look into Confluence and see how that works. And if it's a better tool, then, I mean, we might look into it. Let's see. Another question, is this document for all advisors at your campus or a more specific one for each college department to be more beneficial? It's a really good question. So the wiki that I showed y'all was actually one that's specific to the school that I'm over. So I'm over the School of Applied Technology and Technical Specialties, or at least I used to be a month ago. I'm in a different group now, but yes, I would recommend for it to be split up between the different schools because all schools have different ways of and different processes of getting things done, and they all have their unique things come up. There might be like a curriculum or a catalog procedure that a student has to go through to get like an exception done, and everyone kind of does things a little bit different. I know that our math department has like a Google form that students need to submit an exception request through instead of it being like an email, versus other departments prefer like an email. So yeah, do a different one for each team or for each school, so that things aren't being kind of bunched up. My wiki is very specific to the things that we run into to address the issues that happen with our group of students and our programs in that college and in that school. So yeah, really good point. Thank you for bringing that up. Oh, and then to answer the other question, is it for all advisors at your campus? You can give access to whoever you want. If you feel like it would be beneficial for everyone to have access, then give them access. Personally, I only give access to those who are part of my team, because I can't envision someone from like the School of Education needing to access this information. It's really specific to how processes work with our programs, and it's not going to translate over, unfortunately, to another program because, like I said, they have their own ways of doing things. Any other questions, comments?
And Sylvia, I had a thought too. It'd be amazing if they could do these wikis for like the policies and procedure manuals that we have at the institutions, or even the college catalog. It would be so nice to have things organized in a way like that where you could easily search for, policies, program requirements, coursework, all of it.
Yeah, that's a really good point. It sounds like so much to do, so we're taking it step by step, but we did think of that as well. It's just a lot, it's a lot of information to store, and so there's going to have to be like refining done when it comes to that much information. I didn't initially think that I would have that much information in my wiki, but it just became a place where everyone just kind of dumped their issues and their solutions to those issues, which was awesome. But when I first started it, I just didn't think it'd be that much info. And when I think of large scale info like policies and procedures, it's like, well, we have to get a really good way to get that organized. My biggest thing, like I said, was the ability to search. And that is so important when it comes to finding answers. Like as a new advisor, I was always having to like wait hours or sometimes even days for someone to respond a question of how to resolve something. And it ends up affecting the student when we're not able to do our jobs quickly and efficiently. So yeah, it definitely would be so useful to have a wiki created for large scale information like that. It make things faster.
And sorry, Sylvia, another thing I thought of too is our direct office, where there's like 10 to 15 of us, we use an instant message, just a chat feature in Google, which is good for quick questions, but I like this as a storage of knowledge. Yeah. Especially if you're working on a specific program and you want a nice way to leave knowledge for the person who may replace you.
Yeah, like I said, we just went through that with me. I was the advisor in that school up until like 3 weeks ago. And so transitioning someone into it was so much more easier than when I transitioned into my position, because the information was all there. And I mean, I haven't gotten quite a lot of questions actually from the person who replaced me, because everything is already there. Everything that has come up for me, procedures that I follow to help a particular group of students or to get a student through a particular program enrollment, I wrote all of that down. And it's helped immensely with transitioning folks, even like on the interim. Are there any other comments or questions coming up, Daniel?
Yeah, I'm not seeing anything yet, but I think we're okay if you want to end a little early and folks can maybe check out the last half of some other presentations that are currently going. It's completely up to you.
Yeah, I'm completely okay with it. I apologize that it isn't a little bit longer. Like I said, I usually have people in person sharing their experiences and their stories, and that usually takes up a good chunk of time. But yes, I'm happy to end. I appreciate everyone who logged in to this session, and I hope to catch you guys next week.
Thanks, everyone. Yeah, and again, as those links come out from UAA, you can check out the current sessions that are going on, maybe catch a tail end of some other ones, and then you can definitely view the sessions in their entirety after we post the links on our UAA website. And then just another announcement, I'm not sure if I told this group or not, but the last session, the last day of our conference is on a Wednesday next week. So that is May 26th, where the first hour will be the first round and then our keynote speaker. So thanks everyone, and hopefully you enjoy the rest of the conference.